You're listening to the official start of your NFL week. You're listening to the opening whistle. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the opening whistle. I'm your host, Albanese, and today I'm going to go over the playoff scenarios, the playoff previews, and my predictions for the upcoming games this week, starting this week here in the NFL. This is going to be a rather quick kind of a podcast. Just want to get you guys, ready for the NFL this weekend. There's a couple of really great games coming up. We got Saturday and Sunday NFL playoff football, which is always fun. I'm going to start off with the AFC. I'm going to start off with the Raiders and the Texans. This is one of those scenarios where this game on paper was looking awful and looking like a complete blowout up until like 2 weeks ago with Derek Carr still at the helm of the Raiders. Now we have a rookie quarterback for the Raiders, and we have the Texans going back to their highly overpaid quarterback instead of a guy like Tom Savage, who they were looking like they were actually going to start in this first game. This game's going to be interesting. I think what it boils down to is defense, and I think the Texans are actually better equipped on defense to stop a rookie quarterback, and I think that's where the Texans have an advantage. On offense, is what we're boiling down to is we're not going to see a lot in the air, so I feel like it's going to be a ground game. So this is going to be Lamar Miller versus Latavius Murray, and I mean, quite honestly, I think Lamar Miller has the advantage. This is the worst case scenario for the Raiders, because if Derek Carr was behind center for the Raiders, I think that there's absolutely no way I would even be considering picking the Texans. But rookie quarterback, I really, even though the Raiders look like they should be the better team, they're not going to be home. I'm going to go Texans. I think the Texans are going to get a playoff win, something that I don't think, a couple weeks ago anybody would have thought that, anybody would have predicted that the Texans were going to advance to the second round. Unfortunately, that means if my predictions are right, they're going to have to take on the Patriots, and that's not going to be a fun second round playoff game for them. But hey, crazier things have happened, right? The other AFC wildcard game we have this week is the Dolphins versus the Steelers. The Dolphins were looking really impressive, making the playoffs a couple of weeks ago, clinching their way into in there. I mean, they were one of the worst teams in the league in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the NFL season, and they've really made a big comeback. Once again, a quarterback issue though. Matt Moore will start. Ryan Tannehill doesn't look like he's going to be healthy for the game, and they're playing a Steelers team that just is an amazing playoff team. Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, these guys are just stalwarts in the playoff scenarios every year. I think it's really looking more and more like the Dolphins came down from grace when they played a really solid team, and the Patriots, in the final week of the season, the Patriots just abused them. And that, for me, is not something that Miami wants to go into the playoffs on such a negative note. I think it's Steelers all day. I think the Steelers win by a decent margin, too. I think we see them win by maybe 2 touchdowns. Miami, congratulations for you getting into the playoffs. If you guys listened to the first episode of the opening whistle, you guys know that I'm a Jets fan. So I kind of don't like either of these teams, but it'll be good to see an AFC East team get spanked in the first round because that, in my opinion, should be the Jets. Even though as crappy as they played this year, it always should be the Jets, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that the Steelers will win this one. I think it's going to lead to a great game next week against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are my underdog pick. We'll get into that a little bit more next week. But the Chiefs are my underdog pick in this playoffs. I think that if any team at the AFC East, with the exception of the team that's quarterbacked by Tom Brady, makes the Super Bowl, it's going to be the Chiefs. But we'll get there next week. I'm going to transfer over here to the NFC, and we have some interesting games here. The Giants and the Packers are the one I want to start off with. Let me first just tell you that I am biased. I am not a Giants fan. I don't like the Giants team. I don't like their fans. I don't like I'm a Jets fan. So I'm not. I completely dislike the Giants. One of my most hated franchises in the NFL. With that being said, I have to look at this objectively. And the fact is that the Giants have been playing solid football for the past, for this season, but there's a lot of weaknesses. Now, their defense is good, but they're going up against Aaron Rodgers, who has been on fire lately. Let's face it, the Green Bay Packers they really don't have a running game. They lost both of their starting running backs. They're using a converted wide receiver as their starting running back, and Aaron Rodgers is still making plays. He's still the Aaron Rodgers of old. A lot of the struggles that the Packers had earlier on in the season were because Aaron Rodgers, maybe his play wasn't up to what everybody expected it to be. However, Aaron Rodgers has come back with a vengeance. He's been playing amazing football. The defense has played a little bit better. I don't think that the Giants are the offensive juggernaut that they were a few years ago when they beat the Patriots in 2 Super Bowls. There's always Odell Beckham Jr. There's always the Giants' offense, but they don't have a solid running game. And I'm sorry, but if you can sit there and tell me that Eli Manning has not looked pedestrian this season, that he's looked, and you're going to tell me that he's looked like an elite NFL quarterback, you are out of your mind. You're probably a Giants fan. That's probably the only people who would sit there and say that Eli looks elite. Eli has looked sloppy. He's looked indecisive. He's turned the ball over multiple times. This is not a scenario that the Giants want to be in with Eli Manning as their quarterback struggling going into the playoffs. That being said, Eli is a great pressure player. He plays very solid in the playoffs. So I think that Eli Manning actually has a complete chance of turning it around and doing well. But I just don't think that the Giants can do enough to stop the Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers are going to win this one. I think they go on to the second round. I think they make it interesting. I don't think they get out of the second round, but I think people will start looking at this game and making the Packers a little bit more of a more serious pick as time goes on. And finally, to preview our last game, the Detroit Lions take on the Seattle Seahawks this week in Seattle. The 12th man in full effect. Seattle has been quietly a really solid team this year. I think we mentioned this last week when Avi was my guest on this podcast. Man, how quietly dangerous have the Seahawks been this year? Jimmy Graham's come into his own. Doug Baldwin is obviously playing as solid as he always is. And Russell Wilson has not been a mobile quarterback, but he's been able to stay in the pocket despite injuries to both of his ankles and be a solid quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. They're playing a Lions team this week that has a lot to prove. If you would have watched the Detroit Lions in the beginning of the year, I don't know if anybody would have really said, yeah, no, this team's definitely a playoff team. Matt Stafford has done an amazing job in Detroit this year. He's, with Golden Tate struggles early in the year, he found Marvin Jones. They hooked up for a little while. Then Marvin Jones started to, dip a little bit. And then what did we have? We had Golden Tate become, a resurging part of that offense. And that's what offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter had wanted for the Lions. They really wanted to have Golden Tate be more of an integral part of that offense, and he was, and he did a great job. The last, over maybe after the week 5 of the season, he's been, the go-to guy. The problem I have with the Lions right now is that Theo Riddick doesn't look like he's playing yet, and as good as Zach Zenner has been playing, as good as Dwayne Washington has been playing, I think that without Theo Riddick being that threat out of the backfield and being a safety valve, that really hampers a lot of Matt Stafford's offense, and we've seen it. Yeah, the Lions have won without Theo Riddick, but have they really been that effective of the fourth quarter comeback team that we've seen? The thing that I'd be scared of if I'm the Seattle Seahawks this week is getting out to an early lead, playing preventative defense, and then in the fourth quarter being up by a touchdown against this offense led by Matt Stafford. Matthew Stafford has done a fantastic job this year of being, the comeback kid. Fourth quarter wins. These guys have been, it's unbelievable the effect that they've had on, how effective they've played in the fourth quarter. There's a part of me that wants to almost say that the Lions could pull it out, but it all comes down to scenarios. And if those scenarios have the Lions down in the fourth quarter, yeah, a part of me might sit back and think, man, maybe I should have picked the Lions. But the smart money bet is on the Seattle Seahawks. I feel like every week there's going to be an upset team. One of the teams is going to get upset. And I think this week we're going to see the Raiders get upset. I don't know how much of an upset you can call it, but I mean, let's face it. This is an upset. This is like an upset special right now when it comes to it. I mean, this is the biggest upset you're going to see. I don't think the Dolphins are going to win. I don't think the Giants will win. Maybe the Giants may have the best chance as being an upset team, but I don't think that you see the Seahawks get taken out by the Lions. I think the Seahawks make it to the second round. Honestly, I see the Seahawks maybe even making it to the NFC Championship game, which would be a great game if my other prediction comes true, but we're not going to get into that now because that's really more for next week. But yeah, I see the Texans as being the upset team this week. I see the Seahawks, the Steelers, and the Packers winning out, going on to the next round, and filling out the rest of that bracket. As far as everything else goes, we all know the teams that have the bye this week. We have the Chiefs, we have the Patriots, we have the Falcons, we have the Cowboys. Of those four teams, the team that I think is the most dangerous are the Patriots. I think that the Patriots are going to make it to the Super Bowl. I think that the Patriots are going to do well. I think that they're going to dominate every team that they play. The good thing, if my predictions come true, the thing that I think that I really see happening is that we're going to either see a Patriots Steelers or Patriots Chiefs AFC final. Now, a part of me wants to sit back and say, I want to see them play the Steelers. I think the Steelers may be the better team out of those two. But, man, the Chiefs have played so well. They know how to win. Yeah, they lost a crucial game late in the season, but it didn't affect their standing. They win the division. They get the first round bye. I think the Chiefs are the dark horse team of those four. I think you know what you're going to get when it comes to the Cowboys and the Falcons. They're going to be, the Cowboys are going to have the offensive line working on all cylinders, play good enough defense to get a victory, and have their rookies, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, show what they're made of in the playoffs. I mean, I do think that there is a chance that there are going to be butterflies in their stomach. I feel like there's a chance that that the Cowboys could fall victim in their first playoff game because these guys don't have the experience. But by that same point, that Avi made this point last week, there's been a lot of talk about that throughout the season, and they've played very big games, and they've come up very big in all of those games. I think you know what you're going to get when it comes to the Cowboys. I think you know that they're going to be very offensive with the ball. I think you know that they're going to play good enough defense to get the job done. The Atlanta Falcons in the second round, that high-powered offense is just going to they're going to try to do whatever they can to overcome. I'm predicting that they'll probably wind up playing the Seahawks in that game. The Falcons-Seahawks, Battle of the Birds. Part of me wants to say that the Falcons have a really good chance, but I think the Seahawks are a better defense. I think the Seahawks have a more concise offense. And Matt Ryan is an MVP contender this year. And a lot of people have slept on Russell Wilson this year, but I think that Matt Ryan's play earns him this, the slot where he is first round bye, getting to play, a top team in the second round. And I think we see a really good match out of that. That one can go either way. I'll give the prediction if that's the case next week. But I think the Falcons could be a formidable team. And I think that if there's any team in the NFC right now that I can think that could beat the Cowboys in the NFC Finals, I think it actually could be the Atlanta Falcons. I think they have the best chance out of any team. Well, like I said, this is going to be a brief episode. That's my playoff preview for next week. For this week, Hopefully next week we can work on getting Avi back in here to contribute, and we'll do a full-on preview between the two of us, get a couple of differencing of opinions like we usually do, and make this a little bit more fun. But for now, this has been The Opening Whistle. I'm Albert Albanese, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to The Opening Whistle, which is a part of the Slam Sessions Podcast Network. You can find us on Twitter @The Slam Sessions. We'll see you guys next time.